United States that operates under state control, except when mobilized. As an officer, I held both a federal commission and a state commission from California. My uniform read U.S. Army. I had the same training as an active officer. In fact, like most of us, I spent years on active duty. We had guns, the same as the active Army, locked away in centralized locations. To join, you had to meet the Army or Air Force standards. It's an awesome and vital force, but it is not the militia. Now, this is probably where I take issue, because it is the modern-day equivalent of the militia. If anybody wants a further explanation, I'd be happy to provide that. The idea of the militia is that it includes almost everybody, but everybody can't join the military. Only a fraction of our citizens can. The militia is different. It is about all of us doing our part personally for our nation, like answering a jury summons or paying taxes. Now, this is kind of the stuff I like, right? Hey, citizens, time to do your duty. Time to get well regulated. And that starts with owning a weapon. What kind of a weapon? Well, a requirement for every citizen should be a firearm suited to combat, an actual assault rifle. The M16 M4 is a classic American military weapon, and every member of the militia should have one or an appropriate analog. If you want to go with 7.62 millimeter battle rifle instead of 5.56, that's your prerogative. As a member of the modern militia, you'll need to provide your own kit. And kit item number one is some kind of rifle. You need to be able to defend yourself, your family, your community, your constitution with a weapon. Oh, you'd need a pistol too. Supplementary shotguns are optional but encouraged. Training? We won't need a huge amount other than requiring citizens to maintain proficiency on their firearms. Every citizen can show up a month at 18 years old and take a break from dope smoking and their crappy Taylor Swift music to learn some basics, include safe weapons handling procedures. Also, it would be a good time to do some basic life-saving first aid training. Stop the bleeding, treating shock, CPR. That's not just vital when you lead the flies. What if you come on a car wreck and a fellow citizen has face dived through the windshield and is spurting blood from an artery? What do you do? Oh yeah, my militia training. If it saves one life, right? Once initial training is done, then citizens can be assigned to local militia units at an annual muster. Everyone gathers with their basic equipment, not his basic equipment. Everyone is singular. Everyone gathers with their basic equipment, updates contact info, touches base with the leadership, and then goes home after a barbecue to regular life until being called. Don't think they would never be called up either. I spent 3 weeks with the Army on the streets of L.A. during the 1992 riots, and another week after the 1994 Northridge earthquake. L.A. is shaking as we speak. We citizens need to be ready. How long is there going to be nonsense going down if everyone on the street is carrying a rifle? Not long. It's not much to ask citizens to take personal responsibility for their own country, and the ultimate responsibility is to defend it. That's why the Second Amendment's militia reference, taken seriously, means not stripping Americans of their ability to defend freedom, but enhancing it. After all, for the security of a free state, it's necessary that every healthy, law-abiding American citizen owns a real combat rifle and is ready to deploy on a moment's notice to protect our people and our Constitution. The Second Amendment prevents the kind of nightmarish leftist hellscape that I describe in my action-packed, highly amusing novels about the United States split into red and blue countries called People's Republic, Indian Country, and Wildfire. Hated by liberals and hailed by the sad loser boat crew from the failed Weekly Standard as appalling. Your right to be entertained shall not be infringed. So that's an interesting approach to the meaning of the Second Amendment. And as I say, I don't think he's right on the law, but I do like his public-spirited message. Well, it's kind of the same thing that you're always spouting there, Real Joe Cruz. If I were to say to you, Real Joe Cruz, while the Constitution may set forth rights and liberties, only the citizens can maintain and guarantee those freedoms, what would you say?
Active and informed citizenship is not just a right, it's a duty.
There you go.
But I didn't like what he said about crappy Taylor Swift music. Taylor Swift makes good music. I'm just saying, sir.
This, of course, is the essence of the Real Joe Cruz, to zero in on the really important issues. Take a complicated fact situation and zero in on what really counts. That's the Real Joe Cruz.
I was triggered.
Thank you, Real Joe Cruz. Okay, so that was the triggered Real Joe Cruz, kind of giving his own benediction on the Second Amendment reading. And from there, we go to Jemmy Ikotny. This is that part of the program where I use my blue pencil and my big mouth to be very, very critical of the Pacific Daily News. I do a couple of other things during this segment, but that's probably one of the more important things that I do. Get on them unmercifully for not doing their own editorials and running this anti-Trump tripe that they pull off the Gannett and USA Today wires. Well, today they wrote their own editorial, and it's homegrown and it's home-written, and I agree with it, but at the end of it, I come up with a big so what. Here it is. This year, for the first time in a long time, the liberation of Guam from Japanese occupation during World War II will be celebrated in Congress. You notice that Mike San Nicolas's latest effort to do something started another catfight with Madeline Berdallo and the governor, right, who called him out because anyhow. The 75th anniversary of Guam's liberation will be marked in the Capitol Botanic Garden on July 17, according to Delegate Mike San Nicolas. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, has confirmed and will be the guest of honor. Other members of Congress and party caucuses will attend, San Nicolas said. The festivities will feature performances by Jess and Ruby, master of Chamorro dance Frank Rabone, who invented Chamorro dances and Chamorro singing back in 1987. Deep cultural roots there. The Guam Visitors Bureau's Dance Academy, Jennifer Wynn and Michael Kaleko. While it's a good thing that Congress will once again help mark the recapture of Guam and the freeing of the Chamorro people from the brutal oppression of the Japanese, it falls far short of what should be done and what needs to be done. Legislation recently was passed to allow Guam war reparations to be paid out to survivors. The Guam World War II Loyalty Recognition Act means that 521 war survivors will get $10,000 each, a total of $5.21 million. Except missing appropriation language in the measure means that the payments can't be made. Congress is still considering a bill to fix the language. They must move with greater urgency. It's a good thing I'm reading this here on Tall Tales to my international radio listening audience. Otherwise, nobody in Congress will even know what the Daily News is saying or care. Too many war survivors have died while waiting for war reparations, and with each passing day, there are fewer still alive. It's reprehensible that after decades of hoping for recognition and compensation, even after the reparations have been approved, albeit using Section 30 money that is due to Guam already, the wait continues. Congress needs to do the right thing. After years and years of doing the wrong thing by denying Guam World War II survivors what they earned many times over in the blood, sweat, and tears they suffered under the Japanese. They need to expedite the bill and get it passed into law so the deserved compensation is paid quickly. Even better would be finding the money to fund reparations so GovGuam isn't cheated out of Section 30 funding. Well, yeah, so fine. Everyone would like to see the war reparations paid tomorrow. And we all think we got screwed when Madeline wrote her bill so that the money to pay the payments had to come from our own Section 30 money. It's kind of like giving yourself a bonus by taking a $100 bill out of your left pocket and putting it in your right pocket and say, man, I'm $100 richer than I was yesterday. But, this is not very... The call to action here, first of all, the call to action goes to Congress. Well, the bill is in the House of Representatives right now. And all of you political scientists over there at the Daily News, the United States Congress has two houses. The upper house is called the Senate. The lower house is called the House of Representatives. And the bill is in the House of Representatives right now. And this error that we're talking about is a result of something that Madeline Berdalio, our own representative, screwed up when she was a member of the House of Representatives. So this virtue signaling here, we all know what the people who survived went through. We all know that they deserve it. You're not really telling us anything new. And then using Congress as a whipping boy just shows that you really didn't have much material for an editorial today. So you know that everybody's concerned with war claims. You don't have some magic formula to get the House of Representatives to pass this, and then, of course, it has to be passed by the Senate and then signed by the president. So just ranting and raving about Congress needs to do this right now. Got to try a little harder, Daily News. Okay, so from there we go to the Post. Post says we need more vigilance against environmental harm. Environmental crime hurts us in many ways, and there have been recent examples of some of the more blatant acts we've seen in a while. When environmental crimes result in polluted seas and the smothering of our reef, it hurts our ability to fish and negatively impacts our tourists' enjoyment of our marine life. When an environmental misdeed ends up contaminating our underground source of drinking water, our health is threatened. A more recent Guam case involving a Japanese fishing vessel that had been plying the western Pacific Ocean for decades. When it pulled into Guam's Apra Harbor in April, a subsequent Coast Guard investigation found that the Fuikichi Maru, number 112, had been dumping waste oil into the sea and then attempted to cover up those discharges. Yeah. In part by altering its records of waste oil discharge. The Protehi Litexan group noted they're out there really protecting the environment. Oh, wait, it wasn't Protehi Litexan. It was the U.S. Department of Justice. Yeah. Now, would you think that the U.S. Department of Justice would do anything to protect the environment? They're not Protehi Litexan. Why don't they stay in their own lane? The company will be banned from entering Guam's exclusive economic zone, territorial sea, or port or terminal belonging to the United States without prior approval. according to the Justice Department. The case was investigated by Independence Guahan. The case was investigated by Independence Guahan with assistance from Protege y Latexan. No. The case was investigated by the U.S. Coast Guard Marine Safety Unit with assistance from Coast Guard Investigative Service. Another allegation of environmental harm surfaced just days ago. The Guam Daily Post reported on photos of residue from drums containing aqueous film-forming foam. You want to try that one, Real Joe Cruz?
Aqueous forming.
Yeah. Try again.
Aqueous.
Yeah. Film-forming foam.
Film-forming foam.
Yeah.
Film-forming foam.
Yeah.
Woodchuck chuck.
Yeah. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Yeah, tongue twisted.
Yeah. How about black bug's blood? No. Okay. Back to the editorial. Enough of this Real Joe Cruz nonsense here. back to the editorial. The Guam Post reported on photos of residue from drums containing aqueous film-forming foam being disposed of in a storm drain in Tizan on property within the jurisdiction of the A.B. Wonpat International Airport. The Guam Environmental Protection Agency has launched an investigation into the alleged dumping of the chemical. This type of foam used in airport firefighting has a potential to create an adverse environmental impact if released uncontrolled into the environment, particularly if the foam solutions reach drinking water sources, groundwater, or surface water. The Interstate Technology Regulatory Council states. Now, again, I thought this would be Protege Latexan or Independence Guahan or no. Airport manager Tom Addis said the foamy substance seen in the photographs disposed of through a storm drain was residue from firefighting foam once stored in the drums. We need the airport to be more open on this issue. We need the airport to tell us how long they've been emptying firefighting foam residue into the ground and under whose leadership it began. Okay, we'll take a short break here and come back to whose leadership did it.
Business travel just got easier. Take your data plan with you for only $10 a day to all 17 Data to Go destinations. Never worry about additional data roaming charges when you go where your business needs you. The US, China, Thailand, and so much more. Have the assurance you need to check emails, surf the web, and stay connected. Call 688-2677 today to make sure your account is Data to Go ready. Docomo Pacific. Better together.
Weekday shopping just got exciting. Join the Agana Shopping Center's Shop and Win on Weekdays promo. Shop or dine at any ASC store or restaurant on weekdays from now till October 31st. Show your receipt at the ASC booth and win instantly. Every $20 spent gets you an entry form to win big at the monthly draws, including round-trip tickets to Manila, $500 ASC gift certificates, and more. See posters and print ads for more. Special thanks to Sky Zone, Fundamental Riders, Vince Jewelers, and Wendy's.
Welcome back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, Guam's single voice of reason. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
Yeah, so we need GEPA to tell us who will be held accountable. Now, maybe they could work out an MOU with the Chamorro Land Trust Commission and get Pika Feharan and that gang of eagle-eyed investigators there to come in and do an investigation just like they did at the Chamorro Land Trust when they found out that no one had done anything wrong. We as a community need to be vigilant about all kinds of environmental harm. Our vigilance should include looking out for those who illegally dump into our boonies and rivers various pieces of junk that contain oil, electronic parts, auto parts, pesticides, paint, refrigerants, and other things that will poison our drinking water sources and wash into our shores. In August 2018, the Post reported that a military contractor was fined for accidentally spilling 100 gallons of jet fuel and 10 gallons of fuel-contaminated water and waited nearly 3 months before reporting the incident to the GEPA. Areas affected by the jet fuel spill were Ganya Heights and Harmon. The military stated that the contamination area was cleaned. Some of our environmental and anti-military activists held a protest to show their outrage on this fuel spill. Kudos to the whistleblower who recently shared with the Post the photos of the chemical dumping into the storm drain at the airport. We haven't seen a big outcry on the images of the chemical dumping at the airport property. However, you know why that was, Real Joe Cruz?
Why, sir?
You can't blame the military for it. So if you can't blame the military for it, why have an outcry?
I see.
What would the point be?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Even our lawmakers have not said much, if at all. We wonder why. Yeah. Okay, so a fair editorial beats the Daily News hollow. So once again, the Post gets the coveted Blue Star. I'm just going to spend a little time on yesterday's editorial. I didn't do as good a job with it as I should have. Yesterday's editorial was titled, "Prison Guards Accused of Smuggling Drugs Not Worthy of Generous Plea Deals." And it goes into several of the prison guards, all of the prison guards apparently being allowed to plead to misdemeanors. Pretty light sentence. And the Post took issue. Good editorial, right on point. But I should have read a communication from the prosecutor's office that I should have read yesterday along with the editorial, because this article goes like this. All but one of the former DOC officers who were arrested and charged for alleged part in smuggling meth, cell phones, and other contraband into the facilities they were sworn to guard will be charged with official misconduct. Official misconduct is a misdemeanor. Why would the Office of the Attorney General agree to reduce charges from felonies down to a misdemeanor? The AG's office responded in part that these deals can lead to stronger cases against other bigger players in the illicit drug trade on Guam. And then here's a quote from someone in the Attorney General's office. Prosecution's mission is to prosecute drug crimes so we can stop the flow of drugs into Guam, the AG's office stated. This may mean that we enter into cooperation agreements with defendants who may lead us to stronger cases against major drug dealers who are responsible for injecting this poison into our community. If defendants refuse to prosecute as you are to cooperate, we will prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. So that kind of explains plea bargaining in general, but not necessarily the plea bargains involved in this particular matter. So I should have read that yesterday, and I should have gone farther into the matter of the prisoner's dilemma yesterday, but I'm not going to. Next time we come up with plea bargaining, I'll spend a little bit more time with the prisoner's dilemma, because it's pretty fascinating, I think. It's kind of like a board game. So we go from there to the card. And the first item on the card, I can't get over this. This is from KU as you were from KUAM as you were PDN on July 10. The Guam National Guard is facing backlash for maintaining the employment of Sergeant Jerry Thomas Guerrero, who was arrested by the FBI this week for production of child pornography after a year since the allegations were made. If there is no judgment against him, the National Guard can't take a judgment. And then this is Josephine Bloss again. This is a direct quote. Even our Constitution says innocent until proven guilty. So, Josephine, if you're not listening, you should be. But this is what I'd like you to do. Get a Word version of the United States Constitution and all the amendments and use a search use a search feature and find the words innocent until proven guilty in the Constitution. And if you have a sporting mind, I will bet you $1,000 to your $1 that you aren't going to be able to find it because it ain't there. So who's in charge at the National Guard? Even our Constitution says innocent until proven guilty, she told KUAM News. The other misconception is that he went out and did it again, and now he's being arrested by federal authorities. That's incorrect. So the federal authorities, based on the same findings the local authorities did, they arrested him. So now he's in the hands of the federal authorities. The same thing. Now, were those available to you too, Josephine Bloss and Adjutant General Agagi? And then the article goes on to say, even today, Guerrero maintains his employment. Major Bloss says the Guam Guard stands strongly by his innocence until proven guilty. KUAM news files show Guerrero was arrested a year ago and charged with electronic enticement of a child as a first-degree felony, 4 counts of third-degree criminal sexual conduct as a second-degree felony, 3 counts of possession of child pornography as a second-degree felony. He was accused of making more than a dozen recordings of himself engaging in sexual acts with a 14-year-old girl. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. This is not a well-regulated militia. This is nonsense. And the tenor of this article is that if Jerry Thomas Guerrero went out and did it again tomorrow and sent a letter saying, Dear Josephine Bloss, I just wanted you to know that I went out and did the same thing again and made some more videos of it, but I want to keep working if it's okay with you. And Josephine will write back, well, you know, there's no judgment against you, so far as we're concerned, you're innocent until proven guilty. I see something like this. What it causes me to want to do is reload that nasty letter software in my computer and write a nasty letter to Esther Agagi and her public information officer, Major Josephine Bloss, because this is absolutely inexcusable. This approach, I mean, this lack of action, and then this innocent until proven guilty and letting him stay on the job. Okay, so is that Major Bloss on the phone? Is the telephone call on? No, it's Marcus. Okay. I thought maybe you were Major Josephine Bloss calling to tell me that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, Marcus.
Yeah, well, I'm not Major General Marquez yet. I definitely wouldn't tolerate that. And I know she's appalled by a lot of things, but evidently she's not appalled by this.
No.
As a female, as a mother, as a father, you tell me that that guy got out again, and that my daughter has to lock herself up.
And he's still working. He's still on duty at the Guard.
Yeah. Well, it's time for all of these people to step down.
It really is.
It's not right, and it's not just one time. These things happen. It's like repeatedly. This is, you can't. Stupid is what stupid does, and this is stupid.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Well, we know that most likely repetitive abuse is something that there's sins that can be forgiven, and there's people who can reform, and maybe even sex perverts. But I don't know. Catholic priests and others have tried it, and they haven't done too well.
Yeah.
And then they try to bury everybody, all the victims, under the bus.
Right.
This has got to stop. And these guys are upstanding people. The community, not only our leaders, but supposedly faith leaders in the church.
I hear what you're saying, Marcus.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling. And then I've got the other Governor, Leon Guerrero, online here. Good afternoon, Ken.
Yes. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I just noticed in the paper the other day that the court has pulled the fees for getting a court clearance.
Right.
Aren't they supposed to hold public hearings before they raise fees? Or is the court exempt from holding public hearings on their fees?
I'm not really familiar with it, but I expect not.
Oh, they're not exempt, or they
that they don't have to hold a public hearing in order to raise a fee.
Well, for months now we've been hearing stories that government of Guam is going to be dramatically raising fees across the board. Their justification being that many of these fees haven't been adjusted for 7 years. So it looks like once again the jungle coconut wireless is coming true, and we're going to see dramatic increase in the cost of living, because how do you get a job on Guam without a court clearance?
Yeah, and if there were ever a place where automation would make life easier for people who could use a little assist from the government, it's there. So that in an ideal situation, if Smucka Huckowitz goes and applies for a job at with some employer, the employer goes online and looks at Smucka Huckowitz's court clearance instead of all this schlepping around the way we used to do things back in the 50s.
Yeah, especially, like now when you register your car, they look at the safety inspection online. They look at the insurance online.
Yeah. So if any place, if there would be a way to help folks trying to get started, that would be a really good place. When I came to work here at the Point, I had to get a court clearance and a police clearance. First time I ever had to get those papers to get a job, but
how long did you have to stand in line?
Yeah, it took up a half a day to get those 2 pieces of paper, and $20 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I put a little value on my time, not much, but and of course I had a job. It's not a good situation.
No, what we're looking at now is the further erosion in the buying power of people who are already just trying hard to make it from paycheck to paycheck, because when you stop and think about it, every single person has to interact with the government at some point in time. And if they're doubling court clearances, what's next? Driver's license, registration fees, fees for everything.
It adds up.
Yeah, it adds up. All right, I hear the music, so I'll be listening.
Good talking to you, Ken. Short break, and then I've got who on the line? Real Joe Cruz? Okay, I don't know who's on the line, but the lines are maxed out.
Hey, welcome to this Subway ad for the new club collection. How do you want it?
I'll take a book club.
Absolutely.
So, last week we sunk our teeth into Subway's meaty new release, the Steak Club.
I didn't finish it yet.
Oh, not again, Sandra. This week, it's the new Southwest Chicken Club, also by Subway. No spoilers, but there's a tasty twist.
Jalapeno cheddar bread and guacamole?
Sandra, get out. Subway, make it what you want.
Good ending.
Limited time only at participating restaurants.
Building a business is tough work. Big or small, Nanbo Insurance has your business covered. Nanbo takes the guesswork out of coverage to protect your investments. Over the years, Nanbo has worked with businesses of all sizes, from large hotels to small businesses. Nanbo Insurance will be your best asset. With Nanbo, you can also save big when you bundle up and insure your car, home, motorcycle, or business. Enjoy great savings, up to 50%. Visit nanbo.com or call 477-9754 for more details.
Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Okay, so we're back, and I have a little cautionary instruction here. I can't make Facebook work today, so if I'm not reading out your comments, it's because I can't make it work. You got any solution there, Real Joe Cruz?
I don't, sir. We seem to be having some issues with Facebook today.
All right. So if you got something that's just burning a hole in your mouth, call the Real Joe Cruz. He's a pretty decent guy.
They could also try YouTube if they wanted to try.
But you can't make comments on YouTube.
Yeah,
and that's really important for the show, you know.
They can call 888.
888-8255. Yeah, 888-TALK. Okay, so I better answer the phone here because line 1 is maxed out. Hello, Max.
Hello, Max. Greetings. I'm not sure what's happening there.
I got several Maxes on the line here. It's a conference call.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay, I thought maybe for a minute you'd borrowed Jimmy's phone.
Well, I just wanted to mention that you and I are probably in the same boat. I get about 22 cents an hour, and that's with bonus.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to say two things. One is that this morning, a lady with cancer made an appeal to all public administrators on the island, and I think every public administrator ought to hear it. They ought to be sent a copy of that appeal. Secondly, related to that, and I can't listen on the radio all the time, but yesterday, it was announced that 700 contractors can't get their license maybe until the end of the month because of some kind of board interaction. It used to be that the contractor license director could sign if all the paperwork was there. And something has changed apparently. I just want to let whoever's listening, and you have some pretty important people listening, I think that it's ludicrous to even suggest that we contractors have to wait till the end of the month.
You make a really good point, Max. What happened was that when the new administration came in, 4 of the board members resigned, and the new administration has not appointed members to fill those vacancies. The outgoing board, before the resignations, adopted a policy that said that all contractors' licenses had to be approved by the board and not by the executive director. I don't know, but my suspicion is that this goes back to the Chamorro Land Trust, where the director was approving leases for which he didn't have the authority. But that doesn't make any difference. The governor has taken it upon herself to appoint a director of Parks and Recreation in the absence of the board that's supposed to do the appointing. The governor has taken it upon herself to appoint a state historical preparation officer. So I would think with the battery of lawyers that the governor has available to her, a workaround could be put in place so that contractors could go on until that quorum of the board arrives. Otherwise, it's kind of like putting a chokehold on the whole island. We got to have construction here to make this island work, Max.
Well, the whole situation is insane. It's just like somebody has a stop sign in the middle of the road and the traffic has backed up quite a malolo. That is totally unnecessary.
Yeah, it is. And the only people that could move that stop sign are 4 miles back in the backed up traffic.
I suppose.
And then as far as the lady with cancer, I think you're probably talking about Gwen Timinglow, who made an emotional appeal on Ray's show this morning, correct?
Well, that's right. And you said emotional, and yes, there was some emotional involved, but it just made so much sense. That lady has it together, and the government employees, administrators, need to hear that. They need to wake up to it. They need to go to sleep to it and get off of their backside and make something happen for her and others.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, when it's campaign season, everybody who runs for office would tell you that education is his top priority, right up until the time that the ink is dry in his certificate of election. Then it ratchets down several notches.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like campaign season now is about 2 years long.
Yeah. At least as far as the lip service part of campaign season, Max.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for what you do, and hopefully somebody as significant has heard my whine.
Okay, Max. Well, thanks a lot for calling.
All right. Thank you.
So long. Yeah, so I was maxed out on line 1 there, Real Joe Cruz. What can you can't tell me anything about Facebook, huh?
I really don't know. There's just some kind of technical issue right now dealing with it.
Well, I've read so much about how Facebook is censoring people when they don't like the person's rap. You think that's what it is? That Facebook is shutting down Tall Tales?
That's why Jimmy doesn't get on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy knows. Okay, so next we're going to go on to Josh versus Moylan, and this kind of gets into what Max was talking about and what Gwen Timinglow was talking about this morning, you know, that the government seems to have enough money to spend on frivolities, but when it comes to salary increments, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. Okay, time for that big halftime show that everybody's been looking forward to. The marching band, the drill team, the synchronized card section and the grandstand, the acrobats, the fire eater, the sword swallower, the Goodyear blimp flying overhead. So as soon as that's over, we'll be right back.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Giving up on the citizenship question. I'm Carmen Roberts. Fox News.
There used to be a time when you could proudly declare, I am a citizen of the United States.
President Trump lamenting he's dropping his bid to include a citizenship question on the 2020 census, but he's not giving up on counting how many non-citizens there are in the country.
The president announced that he'll be signing an executive order directing every federal agency to try to compile the information using existing databases.
We have great knowledge in many of our agencies. We will leave no stone unturned.
The director of the ACLU, who successfully argued the Supreme Court case that kept the citizenship question off the census, says Trump may claim victory, but this is nothing short of a total humiliating defeat for him and his administration.
Fox's Kristen Fisher. President Trump argues there's nothing unfair about asking people if they are citizens. People in Louisiana are preparing for a hurricane. It's Tropical Storm Barry right now, but forecasters say it will pick up wind speed and cross the hurricane threshold before making land tonight or tomorrow morning. The worry is the added rain will force the Mississippi River, or it might force it over the levees in New Orleans.
The levees are only 20 feet high, so another 4 feet that could be coming from rain. It could be coming from storm surge, and we'll see that water overtop those levees and obviously put a lot of stress on those levees. And that's why we're so specifically concerned with this storm, because of the rain.
Fox Chief Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth. Federal authorities arrest singer R. Kelly in Chicago on 13 federal counts, including sex crimes. U.S. Attorney's Office in Northern Illinois says the counts include child pornography, enticing a minor, and obstructing justice. In June, the R&B singer pleaded guilty to separate sex-related charges. He was out on bail when he was arrested last night. This is Fox News.
Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with a true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine. A bistro look that feels like home. Their menu features local and traditional flavors with a twist. From their famous Calaguan Hafa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs. Mescla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mescla, a true taste of Guam.
65 years ago, Bank Pacific opened its doors to our community. As we celebrate, we offer you a special 65th anniversary personal loan rate for as low as 4.65% for travel, back to school, a wedding. Do whatever you want with the money. During July, we just want to give it to you for as low as 4.65% APR. It's our birthday present to you.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal opportunity lender, member FDIC, conditions apply.
South Korea wants the United Nations or another international body to investigate claims by Japan that Seoul cannot be trusted when it comes to sanctions against North Korea and its nuclear weapons program. South Korea said this morning firmly rejects those claims. Encouraging news in one southern state for one of the Democrats running for president.
Former Vice President Joe Biden leads the pack in South Carolina among Democratic primary voters. A Fox News poll has Biden's support at 35%, more than double the support of any other candidate. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders comes in with 14%, followed by California Senator Kamala Harris with 12%. Among black voters, support for Biden hits 41%, with Sanders at 15%, Harris at 12%. During the first Democratic debate, Harris had pressed Biden on racial issues, and the former vice president later issued an apology for remarks he made about working with segregationist senators in the 1970s. Pam Puso, Fox News.
The poll conducted earlier this month has a margin of error of plus or minus 3.5%. Several deputies in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department sue over a hostile work environment.
The officers claim they were victims of a gang within the Sheriff's Department known as the Bandidos, and that the Sheriff's Department routinely hired gang members who then targeted and terrorized young Latino deputies. Last year, according to that claim, a group of deputies, all members of the Bandidos, surrounded and beat several other non-gang member deputies, including one who was, quote, nearly strangled to death.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt. The FBI is investigating the claim. And the Dow puts one in the record books as it closes above 27,000 for the first time. Blue chips gained 227 points yesterday after the Federal Reserve said it is ready to raise, or rather cut, interest rates to support growth. This is Fox News.
Ready to buy real estate on Guam? Congratulations! But what now?
There are so many questions, so many things to do. Where do you start? The best place to start is to call Century 21 Commonwealth Realty, Guam's biggest name in real estate. They aren't the best because they're the biggest. They're the biggest because they're the best. Trust the name. Find out why. Call Century 21 Commonwealth Realty today. 888-2121. Trust the best.
Liberate your mind with laughter. Budweiser presents Hypnosis Comedy coming to Guam Liberation Weekend.
Half a day, Guam. I am comedian hypnotist Rich Guzzi, and I can't wait to see you July 20th and 22nd at the Sheraton Laguna Hotel.
With local comedy legend Frank Rios opening the show. $25 general admission, $35 for VIPs. Tickets on sale at 76 Circle K stations and at Coffee Slut. Special thanks to Community First, the Guam Daily Post, Delta Tires, Trivision, and Choice Broadcasting.
You will have the time of your life.
Liberate your mind with laughter is a GSPN production.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Okay, so while everyone was enjoying that big halftime show that we always put out here on Tall Tales at 1700, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we had another caller. So I've had some callers who call in and really don't want to be too definite about the discussion that they want to have. They kind of want to beat around the bush, be sort of evasive, etc. But I've got a caller now who just wants to be frank. So go ahead, Frank. Just be frank.
Okay, Frank. Hello, Senator Klitzkie.
Yes, sir.
Frank, I keep hearing so much about free Medicare for everybody, and I haven't heard anybody come back with nobody gets free Medicare. Everybody that has Social Security pays for it. You pay on a monthly basis, you pay about $100 a month out of your Social Security to qualify for Medicare. And it's a thing that you choose. It's not something that's pushed on you. Yeah.
Part B you're talking about, Frank, right?
All of it.
Yeah, well, Part A, if you paid Social Security taxes for 10 years,
yeah,
you wouldn't have to pay for a premium for Part A.
Okay.
Part B, regardless of how much Social Security taxes you've paid, you still have to pay a premium for Part B, and it depends on several factors, but it's at least $100. Yeah.
Right. Now, I asked about it. What about not just Guam, but Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and they won't give it to them. There's too many people there, and it has caps. Medicare here in Guam has caps. There's certain things they won't pay.
Really?
And the continental U.S., I think it's free board. It's
no, you may be mixing up Medicaid and Medicare, Frank.
No, I asked about Medicare.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, I wrote to at that time the Washington representative was Madeline, and she said, "Oh no, we're covered." And I checked, and there were things we're not covered on.
Okay, so it's not a cap then; it's just a lack of coverage. Is that it?
Well, certain things are not covered.
Okay.
How you want to label it.
Okay.
But it's something you want to check. People think that you just get Medicare for free, and you don't.
Yeah. Well, I'm a conservative, Frank, so I don't think you ever get anything for free.
True. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to bring that point up and see if somebody should look into it deeper and find out what the real story is on that.
You mean on
Selling
part?
everybody a bill of goods that everything's going to be free, and it's not going to be free.
Well, that's what Democrats do. You know, free Medicare and
Somebody's got to pay for all of that.
exactly. You know, you say free Medicare. I guess the doctors are all going to work for nothing, and
That's what that's what it looks like, you know.
yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think any of these people have ever lived in a socialist country where, you know, you might have doctors for everybody, but you wait 3 to 4 months before you get taken care of.
Yeah.
If you get taken care of at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, good points, Frank.
Okay. Well, just wanted to put that out for you.
I'm glad you did, Frank.
Put a chew on.
Okay, thank you very much, Frank.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking the call.
Okay. So there was a call that was caller that was Frank, and on the subject of socialist countries, I've had the opportunity to visit a socialist country or two myself. I visited the Soviet Union back before it fell apart, and if you go to Moscow, Red Square, you know, the heart of Russia now, the heart of the Soviet Union in those days, on one side of Red Square, you find the Kremlin and Lenin's tomb and all that stuff. And on the other side is the biggest department store at the time, the Soviet Union, called GUM. I pronounced it gum. They pronounced it goom. And to go into the GUM department store to buy something, you got to stand in 2 or 3 different lines to buy something. And there at the time, I was there in 1970, and there was more to buy at our townhouse here. There were far more goods at the townhouse in downtown Agania than there were in the largest department store in the Soviet Union. It's just a system that just does not work. In fact, I would maintain that it cannot work. Socialism not only does not work, but it cannot work. And I would be more than happy to entertain any defender of socialism right here on Tall Tales, and we could have a friendly chat about it. Well, anyhow, I had one caller that maxed out line 1. A second caller wanted to be nothing but Frank. So I've got a lot of open phone lines here. I don't have any Facebook to look at, any Facebook comments to look at out of the corner of my eye. So unless you call me, I feel like I'm kind of isolated here. So 888-8255. Next item on the card is Josh versus Moylan. And you recall we picked this up yesterday where Jim Moylan had introduced a bill that would reform all of our government travel policies, make it less expensive for the folks, better documentation, and take away some of the bennies for the monoculue. And Josh Tenorio came back and responded to Jim Moylan's bill in no uncertain fashion by saying, the question was posed to him, with the introduction of the bill, the question now arises, who gets to determine the amount of travel that gets done? And here's Tenorio's answer. To me, that's at the discretion of whoever the official is that's going on the trip. If the official is elected, then the people of Guam have an opportunity to decide whether they agree with that or they don't when elections come. Otherwise, you know, go run for governor yourself. Now there's a real man of the people, right? Yeah. I'm going to do what the hell ever I want to, and if you don't like it, go run for governor yourself. So that was yesterday, and then today's story in the paper, $400 check diverted from Arts Council to fund 2020 trip. Starts out, where's the check? Said Frances Guerrero, who quite some time ago did a commercial for one of the fast food restaurants where she was heard on camera saying, where's the beef? Not really real Joe Cruz. That was an ad lib. Where's the check? Asked Frances Guerrero, the chairman of the Guam Council of Arts and Humanities. is a $400,000 check from GRMC, which represents the most recent installment on the $1.5 million the GRMC must contribute to CAHA in support of the arts on Guam. We don't have the check, CAHA Administrative Officer Sherry Barcenas said during the board meeting Thursday afternoon at the Senator Antonio M. Palomo Guam Museum. Barcenas told board members that the latest installment check wasn't sent to CAHA, as was previously the case. The check was delivered to the office of the Lieutenant Governor. Let me go back here and let me see if I can anticipate what the Lieutenant Governor is going to say here. Where is it, Lieutenant Governor here? Yeah, to me, it's at the discretion of whoever the official is that's going on the trip. But now I guess it's who is at the discretion of whoever grabs the check. Right? We don't have the check, CAHA Administrative Officer Sherry Barcenas said during the board meeting Thursday afternoon. Barcenas told board members that the latest installment check wasn't sent to CAHA as previous. The check was delivered to the office of the Lieutenant Governor. We sent a staff member to go pick it up, said Barcenas, but they handed him a copy of the check. Probably a Xerox copy, not the actual check. And the check from GRMC was not made out to CAHA, but to, quote, percentage of the arts, close quote, said Barcenas. So we actually don't have the check. Chase that down to find out what happened, the board chairman said. In response to a request for comment, the Lieutenant Governor's office issued a brief statement saying the check was being set aside to cover the cost of sending Guam's delegation to the 2020 Festival of Pacific Arts in Honolulu. Gov Guam plans to send a 100-member delegation to the festival. $400,000 worth, 100 people sent to Honolulu, right? Yeah, no, again, I remember Gwen Timinglow's phone call this morning. That's exactly what she's talking about. But Josh Tenorio comes back and straightens it out right away. FESPAC is a core mandate of CAHA. FESPAC is a core mandate of CAHA. Ask me what that means, real Joe Cruz.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I know what each of those words mean in isolation, but when you string it together, it makes absolutely no improvement over silence.
Sounds pretty good, though.
Well, it sounds good, but there's no substance. FESPAC is a core mandate of CAHA.
I like the word core.
Yeah.
And mandate.
Yeah.
Has some weight.
Yeah, you'd think they're in the business of making cider or something with apple cores there. And then it goes on to say, he is working with Senator Kelly Marsh, CAHA's legislative oversight chairperson, on writing legislation to allocate the $400,000 for the Honolulu trip. So there's no legislation in place right now. What's that old saying? Possession is 9 points of the law. So backing up a little bit now, we have a screwy system here. When businesses apply for qualifying certificates, like Guam Regional Medical Center did, they're given a tax holiday. So they don't have to pay GRT, they don't have to pay property tax, they don't have to pay income tax for certain periods of time. So it's a real plum for businesses. And the idea behind that whole mechanism is to attract businesses to Guam that might not otherwise invest in Guam. It wasn't, while we did it with GRMC, though, they had already almost built the building when they got their qualifying certificate. Oops. Yeah. So when businesses get these, then GITA also charges them a fee. And they pay that fee to GITA. And about a year ago, the news broke that GITA was just using that for their own trips and junkets and stuff. So the GITA board then said, well, we're going to change that, and we're going to earmark these fees for various things. So the GRMC is supposed to give a $400,000 check to the Council on Arts and Humanities to foster the arts here in the island. But as you heard from this story, the check never got to Kaha. Apparently, someone from the Lieutenant Governor's office called GRMC and said, don't make that check out to Kaha. Make it out to percentage, what's it called here? I had it here just a second ago. Yeah, I think it's percentage for the arts. So instead of sending it to Kaha, they sent it to the Lieutenant Governor. And now we find out that the Lieutenant Governor is working closely with Senator Kelly, what's her name? Marcia Kelly Titano or something like that? Yeah. Working closely with Senator Marsh for legislation allowing that $400,000 to be used for the Honolulu trip. Well, if that legislation hasn't even been introduced yet, then where does Josh Tenorio get off grabbing that money and saying, we're going to use that to send 100 people to Honolulu? Where's his authority to do that? On June 6th, Marsh introduced Bill 1858-35 to appropriate $400,000 from the Tourist Attraction Fund to pay for travel and lodging arrangements for the Guam delegation. The plan now is to use the GRMC check instead. Isn't this the same kind of shenanigans that we saw in the last administration that angered everybody so much? We have special funds, and we raid the special funds, and we take the money and we use them for something else. So apparently there's a pretty good relationship here between Senator Marsh Titano and the Lieutenant Governor's office because now that bill won't be necessary because we'll just use the money that GRMC was supposed to give to Kaha. But it's okay. You know why it's okay, Real Joe Cruz?
Why is it okay, sir?
Because FESPAC is a core mandate of Kaha.
Sounds good, sir.
Yeah, now if I wanted to crank out a FOIA tonight, I'd say, please send me all public records that show that FESPAC is a core mandate of Kaha. And I suspect that they wouldn't answer. You want to know why, Real Joe Cruz?
It's a personnel matter?
It's a personnel matter, absolutely.
That's what I thought, sir.
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer. Anytime you hear the word FOIA or Sunshine Law request, just keep that one handy. GRMC is required to make the payments because it's a beneficiary of tax exemptions granted by qualifying certificate it received from the Guam Economic Development Authority. As a qualifying certificate recipient, the private hospital must make a fixed contribution to the arts under Public Law 31-118, often called the Percentage for the Arts Law. Okay, well, we got Phil Flores on the line. Wow. Good afternoon, President Phil.
RK, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm doing fine. I'm on the way home. I'm listening to this check being made out to, what is the percentage of the performance arts?
Percentage of the arts, yeah.
So that's the payee. So
Yes.
how are they going to negotiate it? You really can only negotiate an instrument like that with an individual or entity. And I don't think there is one called the percentage of the performing arts.
Percentage of the arts. No, it doesn't. I wouldn't think there was. There is a category of expenditure, but it's not a real or fictitious person. So good question. How will that check ever be negotiated, right?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm enjoying your show. I'm glad I'm a sponsor.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're a sponsor too. And just the other day, when we were talking about the tree of knowledge up on Anderson, the tree that everybody made so much of a fuss over. Yeah, I had to take that opportunity to point out that unlike other banks that build branches, Bank Pacific plants roots. So.
Thank you. I'd like they talk about those. I'd like to get one of those saplings and try to grow it.
Yeah. You probably could do as good a job as some of the Protehe Latexan folks who don't like to grow trees. They just like to talk about them.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good rest of your Friday.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling, Phil. All right. So a little news from a banker there. You can't cash a check that's made out to percentage for the arts. So the article says the law requires a project developer who receives the tax exemptions to allocate 1% of the construction costs to CAHA. In GRMC's case, the $150 million spent on the building, the private hospital required a $1.5 million contribution to the arts. GRMC made an additional contribution of $200,000 for artwork now displayed throughout the hospital. The terms of a February 2016 agreement between CAHA, the private hospital, and GITA required 8 additional payments of $100,000, with the last payment due January 2018. In addition, the agreement requires another $500,000 for programs, goods, and services to benefit local arts and culture. At the start of this year, GRMC was running behind and had made only 3 of the required $800,000 contributions. Another $100,000 contribution was made in February. All the previous checks were sent directly to CAHA. And the story doesn't say this, but I suspect they were made out to CAHA. So nice play here, Josh. Find that quote again here. I ought to have this put in a piece of tapestry and mounted somewhere so I could find it really quickly here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. To me, that's it. Who gets to determine where you travel? To me, that's at the discretion of whoever the official is that's going on the trip. If that official is elected and the people of Guam have an opportunity to decide whether they agree with that or they don't when elections come. Otherwise, go run for governor yourself. Maybe I'll run for the CAHA board myself. Clamp down on this kind of stuff. This is what, Real Joe Cruz, this is what we used to call the phenomenon known as mind over matter. The lieutenant governor doesn't mind, and we don't matter. If you don't like it, just run for governor yourself. This whole scheme of giving tax breaks to these companies and then requiring the company to pay this into this slush fund maintained by GITA is not a good idea. If you're going to give somebody a tax holiday, just give them a tax holiday. Don't tamp it down by putting this other requirement in. And then, of course, you could see how easily it is abused. So when the lieutenant governor calls GRMC and says, don't send that check to Kaha, send it to me, I suspect this is what it would sound like on the other end of the line. Well, I'll come back to that right after the 7th inning stretch.
When your family needs medical care, how often do you find the need to visit multiple clinics? When a child has a serious ailment, do you find yourself meeting a medical provider only to learn you must go somewhere else for testing? At the FHP Health Center, you can find multiple specialties and testing services under one roof. And if your family needs urgent care, FHP is there for you with convenient weekday, evening, and weekend hours. Voted the island's best clinic and Pika's best 2 years in a row. FHP, our island, your clinic. Learn more at fhpguam.com.
The summer of Jeep, Compass, Cherokee, Wrangler, Cars Plus in Mighty. Your new adventure starts now. Buy the 2019 Motor Trend SUV of the year and get a new Jeep Wrangler Sport for $268 per paycheck. Or get a new Jeep Compass Sport, only $167 per paycheck. Let them hear you coming in the new 2019 Jeep Cherokee. Buy for $205 per paycheck. And get financing as low as 1.99% on all Jeep models. Come see why you'll be kicking it at Cars Plus in Mighty. Driven by you.
Mezcla's featured special for July, Seafood Lau Lau, a medley of salmon, shrimp, scallops, and fresh spinach wrapped in tea leaves, steamed to order, topped with soy butter sauce and your choice of starch. Visit Mezcla in Agotna and now in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Okay, so here we are back again at Tall Tales, 7th inning stretch, coming to you from the center field bleachers of Wrigley Field in Chicago. And where did I leave off here? I think I left off with Lieutenant Governor Tenorio telling all of us that if we don't like the way the travel policies are conducted in the government of Guam, just go ahead and run for governor yourself. So today's story, today's story indicates that a check for $400,000 that ordinarily would go to Kaha from GRMC was hijacked apparently by the lieutenant governor and made out to Percentage for the Arts. And we're told now, well, we're going to use that to send 100 people to Honolulu. So I'm using my imagination here and imagining a phone call. Somebody at GRMC, hey, Henry, pick up the phone. It's the Lieutenant Governor. Oh, okay. Yeah. Hello, Lieutenant Governor. Yeah, is this Henry? Yeah, Henry. You know that check that you usually send down to Kaha? Don't send it to Kaha. Make it out to Percentage for the Arts and send it to me instead. Well, Governor. We've been told we're supposed to spend that money on the arts, and we've always made it out to Kaha, CAHA, before and sent it down to them. Isn't that what we're? No! Make it out to Percentage for the Arts and send it to me. Well, if that's what you want, Governor. Yeah, because FESPAC is one of the core undertakings of Kaha, so send it to me. It'll be okay. I don't know if that's what the conversation sounded like, but I can certainly speculate. Otherwise, why would GRMC not send the check to Kaha like it always does? So now we've got the Lieutenant Governor's office hanging on to this check here for $400,000 that we think it can't even be negotiated, but they're going to figure out a way to negotiate it, maybe have it recut so that it can be negotiated, and take that money that should have gone to Kaha and use that instead of an appropriation. So there's nothing right about this story. There's nothing good about this whole story. First of all, why are we sending 100 people to Honolulu? Why are we even thinking about spending $400,000, no matter where it comes from, to send people to Honolulu? We're a couple $2 billion in debt. Our hospital's falling, you know, the same old litany. We've all been through it so many times that we could all close our eyes and go through the whole thing again. The island is just falling apart. But we can send 100 people to Honolulu and spend $400,000 on it. Of course, it gets back to what I've talked about before. The big C, C cubed, colonialism, culture, and Chamorro. Well, we have to do this because we're preserving the Chamorro culture. A questionable possibility at best, you know. So we're going to send people to Honolulu to do these dances, these historical dances that we've been doing since Frank Rabone invented them in 1987, and this somehow is preserving something or other. If we got $400,000, we should spend it on those things that we really need, not on frivolities. And once again, this is probably an idea that won't go much farther than me, but this is what I want to see from our government. I want to see an effective, efficient government that provides basic services in accordance with the rule of law on at least a break-even basis. I don't want the government sending people anywhere for any kind of a performance, whether it's sports, music, whatever. That's not the job of the government. The job of the government is stuff like police protection, fire, maybe medical, education, stuff like that. It's not supposed to be bread and circuses. And that's where we are. We're into bread and circuses, like the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. So spending that money on that undertaking is not good. Taking money that was earmarked for something else is not good. The scheme where the awardees of these GITA incentives has to pay into GITA's slush fund is not good. Nothing about this is good. But I guess if I don't like it, you know what I can do, Real Joe Cruz?
What, sir?
I could run for governor.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the lieutenant governor's advice to those who really don't like the way things are going. Well, you run for governor yourself.
And then when you get in, you could hire me and we could go on trips.
Yeah, then we could do it instead of them, right? Yeah. Okay, so that's so much for that item on the card. And then the next, I've got Josh finally wins one here. This is Josh versus Guam Exeters. You all remember some of the vocabulary that I've been talking about here lately. Excuse me, it's not Guam Exeters, it's Gwexeters. Gwexit means separating Guam from the United States, so that Guam would become an independent country, the Chamorro Socialist Republic of Guahan. And those who favor the separation of Guam from the United States, so that Guam becomes a sovereign, independent nation, are in favor of Gwexit. And those folks are called Gwexitors. So this is Guam versus the Gwexitors. And this started with an article here that ran in PNC on I think on the 11th, and it's entitled DCA, Department of Chamorro Affairs, seeks to refine Chamorro definition in wake of controversy over new Chamorro-centric policy plan for Chamorro Village. Defining exactly what is the idea of being Chamorro or being local means remains a gray area for so many, including the Department of Chamorro Affairs. President Anne Marie Arceo, at least with regard to her plans to shift the Chamorro village in Hagatna from being an all-inclusive venue that has never been defined by cultural barriers to a venue where promoting and encouraging moments to showcase, share, and also transmit to our youth the Chamorro culture and language is the goal. And then Anne-Marie says, to evolve, it's okay, but whatever we can keep that's ours to help us keep our self-identity as Chamorro people is very, very important, and also for the reason that people love Guam for our people, for the experience, for the taste, for our culture, for the way our people are. So in order for us to keep that, Chamorro Village is one of the places we can do that. However, in order to do so, the issue of what is Chamorro enough to be featured in the village grounds must be addressed. And here's another quote. Well, that's actually the controversy right now over what is local compared to what is native. I think that's going to be one of the works of the Department of Chamorro Affairs to establish that, and that might be also the work of the task force that was recently established by executive order that the governor put out. That's an area where we definitely need to look at, but there haven't been any formal committees established yet. Despite the lack of a clearly defined idea of what is Chamorro, the attempts to shift all the features of Chamorro Village continue. According to Arceo, a couple of merchant businesses at the village grounds have already chosen to translate their names into Chamorro. Some are also installing signage that is written in Chamorro, encouraging Chamorro and promoting island music with Guam content. Now, I wonder what island music is, even if they're sung in English, and even prohibiting entertainers from performing dances that aren't representative of the Chamorro culture. So basically what we ask for is the performance that the performers we're doing, for just an example, Polynesian dancing, meaning coconut shells and the hula and the Tahitian costuming. We've asked them to shift their shows and try to consider local Chamorro dances. And what would that be, the polka? You know, native dances, Arceo said. So that's what her plan was. Now, there was a certain amount of pushback here that a lot of folks really didn't like this. One of the major bones of contention was music called the electric slide. And apparently a lot of the old timers like to dance the electric slide. Zanya na imanbea and imanbehu bailan electric slide. And when Anne Maria stopped the use of the electric slide, this caused something of an uproar. But Anne Mario's Arceo's idea was to Chamorroize the whole place. And I really like, I just got to dwell on some of the things some of the quotes here. To a venue where promoting and encouraging moments to showcase, share, and also transmit to our youth the Chamorro culture. Well, you don't transmit culture to anyone, and I keep saying this. If you're really interested in Chamorro culture, you know where to look, Real Joe Cruz, and you know when to start looking?
When and where, sir?
Right here and right now.
All right.
Yeah, this is the Chamorro culture. And this is the epicenter of the Chamorro culture right here in Agana, the most populous of the Mariana Islands. And Chamorro is something that, I had a definition here that I read the other day. the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group, the characteristic features of everyday existence, such as diversions or a way of life shared by people in a place or time. So this is the Chamorro culture. So you don't have to transmit it to the people, the young people that are here. They're right smack dab in the middle of it. Now, if you think that you're transmitting the Chamorro culture by trying to figure out how people danced, say before World War II, and then limit your music to that, that ain't it. Anyhow, the lieutenant governor wasn't having much truck with this whole idea. Acting Governor Josh Tenorio, in an interview with Patty Arroyo on News Talk K57. You know anything about that, Real Joe Cruz?
No, never heard of it, sir.
Yeah. And Tenorio said the Chamorroification drive being implemented at Chamorro Village is not our lead. The Department of Chamorro Affairs, led by Director Anne Marie Arceo, has been banning non-Chamorro dances at Chamorro Village and asking tenants to change the names to Chamorro as well as change their offerings to Chamorro products and services. But Tenorio said, this is not what Chamorro Village is all about. Although Adelup supports Arceo's efforts to promote Chamorro language and culture, Tenorio said the concept for Chamorro Village is more like that of a small business incubator. When Chamorro Village was first started, Tenorio said the original aim was to help small businesses by providing an affordable venue where they can operate. And because of the administration's business-centric view of Chamorro Village, its purview is now being transferred to GITA. Since the changes have been made at Chamorro Village, Tenorio said, Adelup has been receiving complaints from Manamco, who said they were not being allowed to dance the electric slide. Boy, you talk about cutting-edge issues. I can just see, bulan ay Manamco gichalan ay man demonstrate. Zahu na electric slide. Bring back the electric slide. We want the electric slide. Chamorro Village tenants have been airing their complaints to Adelup. And this is what Josh says. This is the punchline. We are not in the business of forcing culture on people, Tenorio said, adding that we are concerned about possible legal liability if tenants are forced to change their business names to comply with the new regulations. But I'm going to go back and read that first sentence. We are not in the business of forcing culture on people. That's not a governmental function, forcing culture on people. And that's why I call this Josh versus Gwexiters, because this is Anne Marie's idea. This is another quote from Anne Marie Arceo. Quote, our government has a responsibility to create and provide those critical moments in the preservation of the Chamorro language and culture. Now, our government has a responsibility to create and provide those critical moments in the preservation of the Chamorro language and culture. From whence does that responsibility arise? That is not a governmental responsibility. Let's try this. An effective, efficient government that provides basic services in accordance with the rule of law on at least a break-even basis. Arceo, who is the director of Chamorro Affairs, our government has a responsibility to create and provide those critical moments in the preservation of the Chamorro language and culture. There is so much other kinds of entertainment elsewhere in hotels, clubs, and elsewhere. As a government, We need to ensure there's at least one place where it's consistently present. This is not salutary theory. This is classic Gwexit theory. You know, that we have to become independent so we don't have to worry about these silly things like people suing us for violating their rights, etc. It's the business of the government to create and provide critical moments.
Get 2 Pepsi 12 packs for only $8.99 when you fuel up on $35 or more of premium high-performance fuel. Conditions apply. See stores for details. Circle K. Take it easy. Get a Pepsi 12 pack for only $3.49 when you fuel up on $35 or more of premium high-performance fuel. Conditions apply. See store for details. Circle K. Take it easy. Get 2 Coke 12 packs for only $8.99 when you fuel up on $35 or more of premium high-performance fuel. Conditions apply. See stores for details. Circle K. Take it easy.
Weekday shopping just got exciting. Join the Agania Shopping Center's Shop and Win on Weekdays promo. Shop or dine at any ASC store or restaurant on weekdays from now till October 31st. Show your receipt at the ASC booth and win instantly. Every $20 spent gets you an entry form to win big at the monthly draws, including round-trip tickets to Manila, $500 ASC gift certificates, and more. See posters and print ads for more. Special thanks to Sky Zone, Fundamental Riders, Vince Jewelers, and Wendy's.
Talk Tells with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Okay, so here we are heading down the home stretch. You just heard the call to the post at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. Home stretch, that means I got about 7 more minutes to wrap up another beautiful edition of Tall Tales here, ably assisted by my ever-popular cohort here, my sidekick, as it were, the legendary, the one, the only, Real Joe Cruz. Take a bow, Real Joe Cruz. Oh, okay, all right, that's enough, Yeah, I said take a bow, not a standing ovation. It's never been easy to be the Real Joe Cruz. Anyhow, so this whole thing, again, there's nothing good in this story. First of all, why is the government operating the Chamorro Village? You know, if there is a market for such things, if there is a demand for it, it's a business. Governments should provide governmental services, police, fire, medical, maybe, schools, etc., but not be in the entertainment business in any form whatsoever, whether it's Chamorro or not Chamorro. It's not a proper governmental function, and it never should have been. Now, I could perhaps be a little bit easy on this incubator idea, you know, try to give people a little bit of start to become entrepreneurs, maybe, but even that is a little bit of a stretch. But this whole idea here is, I'm not going to say it's dangerous, but it requires a certain amount of watchfulness. Our government has a responsibility to create and provide those critical moments in the preservation of the Chamorro language and culture. Now, if we were living, instead of living where we're living here in the territory of Guam, a U.S. territory where the U.S. Constitution applies and we live under the rule of law, we have an independent judiciary, etc. If that weren't the case, if we were living in the Chamorro Socialist Republic of Guahan, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because in the Chamorro Socialist Republic of Guahan, it could be the government's job, you know, to make sure that one culture is, what did Josh say, forced on the people? Yeah. It certainly could be. So if that's what you want, then probably independence is your bag, because then you can use the government to I wish I could find that, what he said here. Oh, yeah, here it is. We are not in the business of forcing culture on people. So that would be the big difference between what we're doing now and the Chamorro Socialist Republic of Guahan. So, Jesse, maybe independence is for you, because you wouldn't have to put up with all of this tripe like laws and due process and equal protection and a particular view of government function. You could be in the business of forcing culture on people. So the lieutenant governor did the right thing here. Good on the lieutenant governor, and also good move to put the Chamorro village under the supervision of Gita. There have been a couple of other stories that the tenants in Gita haven't been paying their rent. Now, that's not part of the Chamorro culture to be a landlord and just let people not pay your rent. So no matter what the focus of the Chamorro village is, if it's going broke, we don't need it. We have other parts of the government that are pretty good at going broke all by themselves. We don't need another one called the Chamorro village. So it's good that it's going to Gita, and perhaps under the supervision of Gita, this odd concept of market forces could be introduced into the Chamorro village, so that the Chamorro village people who want to locate in the Chamorro village could actually make a profit. That's the basic reason that people go into business, is to make a profit. Okay, the next item I have on my card here is Gwexers versus the U.S., and this is an article by Ben Shapiro, and it sets the stage for some of the other things on the card that I'm probably not going to be able to get into. So I think I'll skip that until tomorrow and go into Gwexers versus Respect. Now, I'm not even going to be able to do that. I got some really interesting stuff left over on the card for Monday, so make sure you tune in on Monday for another exciting educational episode of Tall Tales. That's it for today. Real Joe Cruz and I are going to somehow survive through a weekend with no tall tales, but we'll be back on Monday.